Hello and welcome back to the second video in this series on the pre-scene, where we are looking at a veterinary practice PVS. And in the first video we looked at the wider industry in Ireland. Now we're just going to continue with that for one more section, but for the rest of the video we are going to focus more intently on PVS itself. Now this first section, where we're talking about the wider industry still, is a section on industry bodies, regulations and legislation. And what we come across in the first paragraph is the information about regulation and professional responsibilities for vets in Ireland. Because the first thing we see is the vets in Ireland have to be registered with the Chartered College of Vet Professionals, CCVP. And you can see what I put on screen. For PVS, that means that this regulation holds them to the highest standards of veterinary practice. And of course, this helps safeguard pets and also looks after the public interest. Now, the CCVP's Code of Conduct mandates the responsibilities of vets to pets, clients, and the profession and public as a whole. So what this means for PVS is that they're going to have to implement strict adherence to the guidelines set by CCVP in order to maintain their reputation and operational standards. Now, the second element to be aware of here, as I just select my marker again, is the CCVP runs the Standards for Pets program. And you can see in the Standards for Vets program, there's different levels of accreditation. There's the core level, which most of the organizations have. And there's also the higher level, which only 5% of veterinary practices or organizations have in Ireland. Now, what we can see with the higher level, it requires organisations to show how they have achieved extra considerations which benefit the vet team, patients, clients, the community, and the environment. Now, I think what we perhaps could assume now is that it's likely for PVS to only hold the core level. But if we perhaps try to attain the higher level, it could mean that PVS enhanced the market position because it's showing to potential clients or potential employees that they're committed to excellence and comprehensive care. And that could be what attracts members of staff, when we've already seen there's issues with recruiting in Ireland, and perhaps it'd also be a way or something to showcase to potential clients in order to grow their market share. The third element of this regulation section is the Ireland Vet Union. Now, this is for veterinarians and vet nurses, as you can imagine, and of course, being a vet union, they're the ones who are going to be campaigning for better conditions for their members across the industry. Now, we can see the AVU is increasingly concerned about the well-being of its members. And that's not a surprise from what we know already, is it? Because we're aware there's low levels of retention rates, high turnover rates, stress levels, all those things we've already encountered. So it stands to reason that the union is going to be concerned about their members' well-being. Now, for PVS, what could that mean? Well, if they start to address the concerns we've seen, such as working conditions, if they start to support their members of staff, well, then perhaps they can help reduce their turnover rates, perhaps they can improve their staff morale, and that in turn is going to improve the standards of care that they deliver to their clients. So, by being aware of these problems, it's an opportunity for PVS as well. And the final section in this paragraph is to do with their legal obligations. So I'm just going to scroll down a bit and select my marker. So we can see here we're talking about legal obligations. So they've got to comply with specific health and safety legislation, as you'd expect, especially when you're working in industry with animals that could bite your employees. They've also got to display a large notice informing clients they can request a written prescription. And that's trying to make sure that clients know that they don't need to, or that not their only choice is to buy the prescription buy the medicine for the prescription from the veterinary service, but they can take that written prescription, take it off, get it fulfilled. We saw online, didn't we? It's a really good place because they do it cheaper. And the provision of or pay another organisation to provide on their behalf a 24/7, 365 emergency service. So what we've got here are several legal obligations. Now, obviously, we want to make sure that PVS is minimising risks and making sure there's a safe working environment for its employees. We also want to make sure that PVS abides by the regulations displaying the notice so they can promote transparency and making sure that clients feel that they can trust PVS. We're not trying to hide anything from them in order to try to make more money from them. And basically making sure we follow these practices. It's not just a legal requirement, it's a way for us to build trust with our clients. So there we go. There is the legal requirements, and that's the regulation section done for their markets. And I think what we can see here is for PVS, if they adhere to these regulations, if they try and strive for the higher accreditation, perhaps these are ways that they can differentiate themselves in this really competitive market. And if they try to demonstrate a commitment to higher working standards and employee well-being, perhaps that could be a way for them to mitigate the challenges that they're facing in terms of recruitment and retention. And by complying with these legal obligations and making sure all practices we undertake are transparent, perhaps our reputation will improve and our efficiencies will improve and our client base will expand. So there we go. That's the end of the industry section. But of course, we can see here now that we're moving down now to focus more on PVS, Preacuro themselves. And we're going to start off with the background. Okay, we kick off the background with a couple of things we already know. It's the 5th largest pet vet organisation in Ireland. It was established 32 years ago by Pietro Preacuro, and I think we already found out that its growth has been organic, although under the current management there's been a few small independent business acquisitions. And in turn, this has positioned the company really well within the competitive landscape. So we've got kind of organic growth and small acquisitions which have been successfully integrated into the organisation. The second section is all new information. We find out that PVS runs 168 clinics in the south of Ireland. We've got clinics varying in size quite significantly. Some have just like 1 or 2 vets, while others increase to 9 or 10. Now this variability means that PVS are able to cater to the different needs in different markets and different geographical areas really effectively. The head office is also based in the south of Ireland, and this centralizes the key functions. We got finance, IT, purchasing, legal, facilities, and HR. Let's just highlight all of those. And in the final paragraphs, we find out about the staff. We've got a total of 2,490 staff, 860 of which are vets, 925 are vet nurses, and 705 support staff. So we're talking about people such as receptionists that work in the practices themselves, and also the members of staff at the head office in the south of Ireland. Now we do see the ratio of vets to vet nurses to support staff is broadly in line with industry averages. And we also find out the financial year end is of the 31st of March. So what we found out in this section is so far PVS has grown organically with some strategic acquisitions. The company's positioned well in the competitive landscape, being as it's the 5th largest pet vet organisation in Ireland. It's got centralisation, of support functions at the head office. Hopefully that's giving operational efficiency. And we can also see a balanced staffing ratios, which should mean we're getting high quality service delivery. So far so good. We're seeing kind of factors that seem to strengthen PVS's ability to navigate industry challenges, including those we've already seen so far: staff retention, competitive pressures, and regulatory compliance. Okay, so let's scroll on down to our next section, which is strategic position. I'm just going to scroll down, see if I can get more of it on screen. I can't, so I'm just going to stop at the top there. Okay, so we start with the first paragraph, and you can already see I've put out the phrase differentiation here because we see that other pet vet organisations are cheaper. The services are cheaper than we charge at PVS. But what PVS has done has differentiated its service using 3 service features, and these are the features that have driven PVS's growth and provide them, or have provided them, with the competitive advantage. And we can see what these features are. That's location, innovation, and quality of service. So let's start with location. We can see that over 85% of PVS clinics are in town centres. And of course that means that they're very convenient. They have car parking for those clients that prefer to bring their pets in by car. I mean, I really hate bringing Primrose in by car, but I've got no choice. But if you live in a town, it's easy to access on foot or by using public transport. Now, this ties in with what we saw earlier on, that customers are really looking for convenience now. They want longer opening hours, etc., etc., etc. And of course, by being really centrally placed, being really convenient, you're going to be near places of work, near people's residences, so you're that much more accessible for your customers. So by making sure your locations are in town centres, it means your clients are going to be satisfied. It means they're going to think of you as a really convenient, or PVS, as a really convenient vet practice, and also that you're really just client friendly. You're focused on giving them the best possible service because you're in town. Our second section is innovation. We can see PVS has been really innovative in kind of developing services for cats, and they include therapy for pets experiencing behavioural problems. I think Primrose probably needs that. And the use of acupuncture for pain relief. And indeed, they've been so innovative, they've won numerous awards for these innovations. And of course, what this does, it shows that PVS has a really high level of service quality, which ties into this differentiation strategy, doesn't it? Because they're not offering the cheapest prices. Well, what are they offering? Well, they're being accessible. They're offering innovative, high quality services. And of course, that means that clients are going to think of them as this kind of premium offering, that if they really want to look after their pets who are just as important as family, as we saw in this kind of market breakdown, then PVS are the people you want to go to because they really care about the animals, because they really offer a high quality of service. So that's a really good thing in helping them differentiate their offerings from the other pet vet organisations. And this ties in exactly with the final service feature, and that's the quality of service, because they've got an excellent reputation for quality of service. The patient care provided by the knowledgeable, happy, engaged staff from welcoming and comfortable clinics. And it's prided itself on knowing its market and gives its clients what they want. So, of course, by offering this quality of service, it's a really key differentiator from other vet practitioners, and it makes PVS a preferred choice for many pet owners in our lands. And of course, one thing to be aware of though, all these things, the knowledgeable, happy, engaged staff, will of course, if we're finding recruitment and retention and work stress a problem, well, that's especially damaging for an organisation like PVS, because that's part of our service. That's why we're able to charge more, because we are knowledgeable, we are happy. So other organisations who may be on a cost leadership kind of strategy, who just charging very cheap prices, well, they may not need such kind of welcoming, happy staff. It might not be so important for them, but for us it is. And then one final thing, which I won't scroll down to just yet, we'll just see at the bottom of the screen. We can see all these features have contributed to PVS winning Ireland's Vet Organisation of the Year 11 times. The last time 6 years ago. So on one hand, I think the recognition really underscores the effectiveness of the strategy that PVS has undertaken so far: location, innovation, and quality of service. So what, we've been 32 years, so it's one every 3 years we won the Vet Organisation of the Year. However, is it a concern the last one was 6 years ago? I think that's something to bear in mind, because obviously it was a lot more frequent if we take out the last 6 years. So maybe that's something to bear in mind. We've got this really good reputation, but is it starting to suffer now? That's just one query I would raise from that. Okay, let's scroll down now, get off this screen. We're still on the strategic position, paragraph, there we go. But I'm just going to scroll down now so we can get more on screen for us. So, what we can see, something that I just mentioned, is we won the awards last time 6 years ago. Is that a bit of a red flag? Well, we also are aware from the market breakdown we did earlier on, the industry has consolidated. We've seen the competition has increased. And because of this, our revenue has started to decline and our market share has dropped every year since 20x10. And a large part of the reason is that competitors have begun aggressively undercutting the prices. Now, we've seen that we offer a very high quality service culture, and these kind of aggressively undercutting companies aren't offering that, but that hasn't stopped them taking large market share. So we've got this really kind of proud history. We've stopped winning the awards, and also the market has become more competitive and we are losing market share. So perhaps what this means for us is we've got to address these challenges perhaps by undertaking a strategic reassessment. We've got to make sure we maintain a competitive edge in innovation, service quality, because otherwise what we're charging these higher prices for. But perhaps we also need to look at our pricing strategies in order to try and compete with these companies that are charging far lower prices than us. And also maybe we want to take a lesson from those larger groups in our industry and start thinking about more effective marketing efforts in order to communicate what we offer at PVS, which is this really unique value proposition. And maybe that could help us kind of claw back some of our market share, attract our new clients, and kind of retain our competitive edge. Okay. So our next section is on our ownership. Okay, so we can see with ownership that the founder, Peter Preacuro, has recently retired. So he's no longer got any active involvement in the management of PVS, but he still owns 11.11% of the shares. So he's still got a financial interest and possibly, I'll put a question mark by the phrase, possibly an influence over strategic decisions too. Now, the board of PVS has got 8 executive directors, including an executive chair and a recently appointed CEO. Now, each of these executives owns 11.11% of the shares. PVS is unlisted and is all equity finance. Now, the high level of executive ownership would suggest actually that everyone is deeply invested in the success of PVS because they've all got financial stakes in the company, and so their own personal interests are far more likely to align with those of other shareholders, and this promotes decisions that drive long-term value. One final thing I also want to pick out from here, we kind of brushed over it very quickly, is that it's unlisted and is all equity finance. Now, in one hand, being unlisted means that it doesn't have the pressures of quarterly earning reports that public companies face, and that can allow for longer-term strategic focus, but being solely equity financed can limit access to large-scale capital quickly. Now, of course, that can be really useful for things like rapid expansion or significant strategic investments or kind of big capital investing. Like we saw, the technological things are costing a lot more money now in the industry. So the fact it's equity-based might be an issue for that moving forward. Okay. Let's scroll down and actually have a look at the board itself. So we saw there's the 8 executive directors, There's also one NED. This, of course, means the NED can provide independent oversight, although we can see the board doesn't have a committee such as an audit, nomination, remuneration, which we would most likely see in listed companies. So this does align with the idea of PVS being a non-listed company, and that does mean there's fewer bureaucratic layers, and that can mean it can be a bit more nimble and the decision-making processes can be sped up. And then we've got the kind of operational structure. Well, their COO is going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the 168 clinics that PVS have throughout Ireland. If we just scroll down a bit to more of the role of the Chief Operating Officer right here. So they've got the day-to-day, well, they're responsible, for the day-to-day operations of the PSV's clinics. And the operational hierarchy includes clinic managers on the left-hand side. They report to the senior vets. They report to the district managers. And then they are the ones that report to the COO. The COO is supervising all those. Now, what we can see here is a really layered structure, which should allow for effective management and oversight at all the varying levels, and that should mean that operational issues are addressed really quickly and efficiently. But of course, what is needed are really clear lines of communication channels, as well as robust coordination to maintain efficiency. Now, because I rushed down from the board structure to the CEO section, I just want to draw attention to something we've already talked about. They've made the decision not to have the audit, nomination, and remuneration committees, but there is an internal audit function, and that reports to the Chief Financial Officer directly. Now, this ensures that financial oversight is integrated with the broader financial strategy and operation of the companies. Now, that's really good about streamlining the processes, but it also does put a lot of responsibility on the CFO to maintain transparency and integrity in financial reporting and risk management. Okay, so we've talked about the kind of chain of command to the COO. Let's go and have a look now at the other board members' areas of responsibility. So, first off, let's have a look at the CFO. It's all pretty self-explanatory. They're in charge and overseeing finance, purchasing, and internal audit functions. So basically, they're making sure there's financial stability and strategic procurement. The Chief Medical Officer is focusing on the quality of patient care and the medical treatment that's provided at PVS. And of course, that's really important when PVS are trying to really maintain their high standards and have their trust with their clients so the clients keep coming back and provide word of mouth referrals. Then we've got the Human Resources Director. So of course, they're in charge of the talent, they're in charge of compensation, they're in charge of training, they're in charge of health and safety. And of course, we've seen there's issues with stress at work, staff retention, staff satisfaction. So actually, this is a really important role when we're considering the challenges that are faced in the industry. Then we've got the legal director who's trying to reduce the legal risks that PVS are open to, I suppose, and they also advise on major legal and regulatory issues, doing their best to protect PVS from any potential liabilities. And then finally, we've got the business director, and they're in charge of driving revenue growth. They're in charge of identifying any new opportunities that PVS can take advantage of. They're also the ones in charge of growing the brand presence. And of course, all these are really important for making sure PVS is sustainable in the long term and can grow its share of the market. Then just squeezed into the bottom of the screen, you can see the section on, let me just highlight that for you, on decision making. And we can see here that decision making at PVS is centralized, especially when we're talking about pricing. So basically, pricing, rollout of new services, and salary levels. So what we're saying here is that these decisions are set in the south of Ireland at the head office. Now, of course, that can be really good because it means there's consistency among all the, 168 practices, and all these kind of pricing decisions and strategic ideas are aligned with the company's strategic objectives. But what we can also see is that district managers and senior veterinarians are responsible for generating growth for the clinics under their management within the parameters set by the board and for using resources efficiently and effectively. So we've got kind of two distinct areas of responsibility here. The first with services, pricing and salary levels set in the head office. But then those district managers, if you remember up here, they're the ones who report to the chief operating officer, and the senior vets, they're the ones in charge, responsible for generating growth for the clinics under the management in those particular areas. So what we can see is that we've got this balance between central oversight and this kind of more localized management. Now that can be really good. It can foster innovation. It can mean there's efficiency, whilst also maintaining strategic coherence in the organisation overall. But having this reliance on centralised decision making can also slow down responsiveness to local market conditions, because of course there can be price variations across the country of Ireland that the senior vets and the district managers are privy to, but they can't do anything about. Thinking, well, one area is particularly poorer than another area, for a really kind of broad example, where they can't do anything about bringing those prices up. They can't adapt to those local areas. So again, we've already talked about communication. Well, it's really vital with this kind of balancing act between centralisation and local decision making, that there is an effective chain of communication and some agility within the framework that's been set by the board to make sure that PVS can stay competitive. Okay, let's scroll down now to our next section, just making sure I can get it all on the screen. I can do. So our next section is on information systems and the use of technology. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about in this section is the business management software used by PVS. Now, this is basically an off-the-shelf package business management software that they use in order to record client and patient information about consultations at the clinic, etc. Now, we can see they've been using it for 8 years. And, okay, well, it might have been a really good system initially. 8 years is quite a long time in tech, and it doesn't seem to have any significant updates. And so what we might be finding here is this kind of limitation to the functionality and efficiency of the software. And in today's environment, relying on outdated systems can really hinder operational performance and data management capabilities. So that looks like something that needs additional investment or looking into at the very least. The next section is the PVS website. So what we've got the PVS website is a search functionality, and that means that prospective clients are able to locate nearby clinics. And it also gives really basic information about the services provided by each different clinic and how the clients can get in contact with those different clinics. And it also gives details about the executive team and provides some limited info on PVS itself and its mission and its values. But what we're not seeing here is any kind of functions that, I don't know if you even call them advanced, but you can't seem to be able to book online. You're not getting detailed service descriptions. You're not having interactive client portals. And all these things could significantly enhance user experience and engagement. Okay, the next section is the next tiny paragraph is on communication. I'm actually going to call it communication limitations because emails are used at PVS, within PVS, I should say, and also with suppliers. But clients can't communicate with clinics via email even. And as we've already kind of hinted upon, but now it's said for definite, we've got a very limited social media presence. So on one hand, we've kind of got this history of innovation that we were talking about earlier on, but actually it doesn't seem that innovation has moved over to the communication side of it, to the emails and the social media presence of the industry. Now, again, in this current digital age in which we live, you would imagine that robust email communication, as well as really attractive social media engagement, are really important for making sure that client relationships are maintained, and also to try and reach this broader audience, to try and take more of this market share. So I think these limitations here, these communication limitations, suggest that PVS may be missing out on significant opportunities for client interaction and brand building. The next section is on the staff intranet. And on the staff intranet, you've got things such as news, info, and resources for the staff. So imagining it's going to serve a really important tool for internal communication and employee engagement. Now, by using the internet, staff should feel like they're informed and connected, but perhaps what we need to do is an assessment of the intranet to see how efficiently it's being utilized and just to make sure that it's meeting the staff's needs. And I suppose we're saying that really in light of the other information systems we've seen, they're all kind of lacking. So maybe the intranet is also something that's worth having a look at. But it's the final section that probably is going to cause, it's the most worrying, I should say. Now, I've just talked about the history of innovation at PVS and how they obviously hadn't moved forward and taken that towards communication and social media engagement and kind of the new digital world. It also extends to technological advances in pet care too. Now, we saw how important that was when we were looking at the market as an overall, at the industry, I should say. And obviously, if we're selling ourselves as this kind of premium provider of veterinary practices that kind of prides itself on innovative techniques and pet therapies, etc., then I think it's kind of worrying that PVS hasn't made any significant investments in technological advances in pet care recently. So we're talking about things we've already mentioned: telehealth, AI-driven diagnostic tools, and any kind of advanced treatment options. Now, all of these things could enhance the service we give, could improve our quality, can improve our operational efficiency. And remember, if we're operating this kind of differentiation strategy, we're not kind of the cheapest option out there who's offering this kind of basic package, then we have to kind of live up to that standard that we're setting ourselves. Otherwise, we could end up being stuck in the middle. Now, investing in these modern technologies doesn't only improve the outcomes of the pet's health, it improves our company's competitive position. So there we go. That is the use of information systems and use of technology. I'd say almost every element of that is of a slight concern. Now, before I scroll down, actually, just thinking about a relevant UK example, there's the veterinary organisation Pets at Home. Now, what they've done is successfully integrated advanced technology into its operations. So, what do? They offer online booking, they offer comprehensive service details on their website, and they maintain an active social media presence in order to try and engage with clients and also to promote their services to other prospective clients. And what this integration of technology has done is it significantly enhanced their customer service and their operational efficiency. So, I think what we can see here is our current information systems and our tech show need for areas of improvement. Okay? Let's scroll down to our next section now, which is, I can get it on the screen. Yes, I can. Services. So the services paragraph kicks off with an explanation that these services on offer at a particular clinic are dependent on the size of the clinic. So the larger clinics that PVS own carry out a wider range of diagnosis tests and surgical procedures than the smaller ones. Now, of course, that makes sense because the larger clinics contain more equipment, more tech, they've got more people, clients coming through the doors, and the smaller clinics don't have that. But if they don't have that, they are able to refer to the larger PVS clinic in the same area. So what we've got here is a referral system that means all patients, no matter where they are in relation to a PVS clinic, can have access to comprehensive care. And I think what we see here is the importance of PVS maintaining strong coordination and communication between the clinics to manage referrals effectively. The next paragraph talks about kind of a failure of PVS and the fact there's been little innovation in recent years, and in the past 2 years they haven't offered any new service offerings at all. Now, we know historically PVS are known for developing and introducing innovative pet care services. Now, the fact there hasn't been any introduced within the last 2 years suggests that PVS's competitive edge could be dulled, because innovation is going to be crucial for attracting new clients as well as retaining existing ones in the competitive market that we are facing, especially when we are differentiating ourselves on the quality of our offerings. Maybe slightly different if we were pursuing a different strategy. Now, an important part to turn around the slowdown in our growth is to reignite this innovative drive. Can restore our reputation, can restore our market position. Okay, our third paragraph is about the opening hours, 8:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. And if there's an emergency, I don't know, a pet has a sudden illness or an accident, there are emergency cover outside these opening hours. And those vets kind of take those shifts on a rotating basis. So what we've got here are standard workday hours. But what do you remember about the earlier market demand? We saw that clients were expecting and demanding more flexible and accessible pet care services. They were talking about after work and weekday appointments. So what we can see here is actually we don't offer any of that. And one thing we could do is extend our hours to meet the needs of these kind of new clients, this new demographic of clients, and stay competitive. The next section is all about PVS's healthcare plan, which they started 2 years ago. So basically this plan offers annual vaccinations and other routine treatments to pets, and their owners pay the monthly fee payable by direct debit. I do something very similar for my cat. I don't remember if I said so. So basically, I think I pay £16, gone up a lot in the last few years. Every year she has a wellness check, and also I get access to her kind of routine medication, which is flea treatment, tick treatment, all that kind of stuff. And I go and pick that up from the surgery every 6 months, whenever it is, but then I take Promozin every year. Now, with PVS's plan, their members, as I'm going to highlight here when I can find my marker pen come out. There we go. Oh, God, I'm totally the wrong way. Their members can also pay expensive treatments and procedures at a later date. So if they're members, they're able to defer their payment of expensive treatments that they might not otherwise have the money for. And although this does impact the cash flows, which luckily I've already highlighted, the retention rate of plan members as clients is higher than that of clients who are not plan members. So although there is an impact on short-term cash flow, we do see that plans can enhance client loyalty and provide that steady revenue stream. I, for example, haven't looked to see whether I can get my medication anywhere cheaper, whether I can do a one-off wellness check in a year rather than the £16 a month I pay. Maybe it's something I should do. But I'm kind of loyal to that clinic now because it's all direct debit, it's set up. I don't really have the time to go looking around to try and find a cheaper deal. And obviously as well, that location for me is really good because Primrose doesn't like travelling too far in a car. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit to the next section, which is about the town centre locations. Now, this is what PVS have relied on. The fact that they've been in town centre locations. So if people are looking for vets, they go, oh, okay, the vets is in the centre of town. Yeah, I know a friend went there. They said it was very good. And that's how they traditionally have got their new clients. And we also know the marketing activities have been limited to just posters and clinics and advertisements in local newspapers. Now, we're going back to talking about being in a digital age. Now, this sounds very limited, this marketing effort, doesn't it, to kind of what we're used to now, especially for a company that is fifth biggest in its sector in Ireland. So really, you might want to think about expanding marketing efforts to include online platforms, social media, targeted advertising. All of these things could significantly enhance PVS's reach and attract a broader client base, because we're going away from this traditional base where we expect the vets to be in the centre of a town. But of course, now we've seen the competition coming in. They're in pet superstores or the edge of town, in bigger warehouses, industrial estates. So obviously now we got to change our way that we try to attract customers in this new age. So that's our services section. So for PVS, enhancing the range of services that are offered at smaller clinics perhaps could be done through things such as mobile units or telehealth services, could actually reduce the need for referrals and improve client satisfaction, because they're not the ones having to travel to a different place. I mean, if I took Primrose into my local place and they said we can't treat her, but you can treat her in a nearby town, I'd be full of dread because Primrose is such a bad traveller. But if that practice could offer me something mobile where they come to me, well, that's much better for me. I'd be much more satisfied. Another thing that's come out of this section is the idea that PVS have to reignite their innovation. They've got to start thinking about new pet care services in order to strengthen their competitive position. And we also talked about how we got to think about extending clinic hours or perhaps enhancing the emergency service offering in order to cater for those that want accessible pet care after work, at weekends, at times to suit them. Because you don't really want to take time off work, do you, to go and get your cat's tag checked, or do you know what I mean? It's not something you want to waste your holiday on. And the other things we spoke about are expanding marketing strategies to include digital channels in order to improve visibility and client engagement, and also perhaps thinking, okay, the one real success that we've seen in this section is to do with our healthcare plans. Well, maybe there's other initiatives that we can launch that would also boost client retention and keep that kind of revenue stability coming in. Now, I think I talked about pet service before. It was a totally different pet service. An example of what we just talked about in this section is Vets for Pets. Now, they offer a comprehensive range of services in the UK across various clinic sizes, and they also really make use of extensive marketing strategies, and that includes strong online presence and active social media engagement. And they also offer pet health plans in order to increase that client loyalty in a competitive market and provide that financial flexibility. So actually, I think there's a kind of a lot of stuff for us to be looking at in this section about how we can improve what PVS is doing. So there we go. That is everything, I think. We're not going to go into supplies in this video. I think we'll leave it here for video 2. Hopefully you found this video really useful. Come back where we're going to finish off the pre-scene material. And also after that, of course, we've got our other 2 videos that's definitely worth checking out. So thank you very much. And see you soon, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it really useful. But that isn't the end. After then, we've got 2 more videos. The first of which is a strategic analysis video. And what we do in that video is take all the info that we've pulled out of the pre-scene and run it through some models and theories and apply it to the syllabus so that you go to the exam fully prepared. And in the final video, we pick out the top 10 most likely issues that we think you could encounter in the exam so that you know what to look out for so that you construct your revision in the best possible way. So there we go. It's definitely worth checking these videos out. Thank you so much for watching today and good luck with your revision.